How we doing? I just built a rooftop deck on my 2013 Chevy Express. It's a 2500 regular wheelbase, not the extended. And I'll show you how I built it and what I use for parts in case anybody else wants to build one like it. For starters, it's a 5/4 by 6 cedar deck, nice cedar deck. It'll weather to a nice silver gray. And I'll show you the brackets first. The brackets I used came from IronMan 4x4, which is a website. And the bracket itself is a IRR feet, IRRFEET 125. And 125 refers to the height. And what it means, that's millimeters. So 125 millimeters is actually about 5 inches. And 5 inches from where it sits in the gutter. These are a universal gutter attachment bracket. From where it sits here in the rain gutter to the bottom, or I should say the top of the bracket, the bottom of the deck, is about 4.9 inches, which is 125 millimeters. They make other ones, I'm gonna go inside and show you. They make other ones that are higher and lower. But what I did, that gave me just enough height to put in a 2-inch cross piece. So pretty much my stringers, my joists are 2 inches tall, and I bolted them underneath the bottom of the bracket. They're bolted. You can see, I got my ladder in the way here. You can see under there, I'm going into the sun. I'll go the other way over here. I've got the bracket on top of the stringer, and I've got the stringer bolted through the holes in the bracket from the bottom going up. And then my deck sits on top of the bracket and on top of the stringer at the same time. And it'll make a little more sense as I go inside and I show you kind of what that bracket looks like. And again, it's a universal kit from IronMan. Right there, IronMan 4x4, universal gutter mounting kit. Again, this one's the IRR feet 125, which is about 5 inches tall. They also make 100 millimeter, which is about 4 inches. They make a 150 that's 6 inches and a 210 that's 8.2 inches. When I got these brackets, you can see the bracket there. It's got those 4 holes in the top for attaching it. Typically, I'll show you an exploded version too. That's from their instructions, but that's an exploded version. And you can see all the parts here. When you look at it, that's the bracket. And then this is the outside of the bracket that clamps on with this knob and this bolt. And what that does is clamps. There's the knob with the first part of the clamp, and it clamps to the second part of this bracket. And when you torque it down, I just drove it all the way to the Van Nationals out in Ohio from Maine. It was about 12 hours each way, rock solid, no problems at all, never came loose. This particular bracket, it's a universal one, but these brackets are intended for a rack like that on like a Land Rover or something. And that's it, flipped upside down with them attaching the brackets. These are universal, and I got them again to put on my van and custom build this deck. So when I got this bracket, I was pretty sure I had enough space for my cross piece, my stringers. I measured, and you can look here, when I set them up in place, the brackets without anything, I set a level across them across the roof. They're about 5 inches, on the side from the gutter to the top of the bracket. But the van roof, of course, has a curve both side to side and front to back. And so from side to side, it wound up being right around 2 inches underneath the bracket in the middle of the van. So if it's 5 inches down here in the gutter, it goes down to about 2 inches of space between the top of the bracket and the top rib of the van, and that's kind of a picture of the ribs on my van roof. and this bracket and that distance there. So there's a greater distance on the edges, but what you need is enough space to clear the top of the van. And I'm going to go back out now. I think that's enough there to see there. But again, those are the brackets. I'll show you where I bolted. I bolted from the bottom up through my stringer and up through those holes and bolted up through. I cut the, I put the nuts on and some lock washers, and then I cut them flush to the top of the nut, and then spray painted them black. And then I countersunk underneath the decking to set the decking down over those so they disappear. So let's go back out and it'll make a little more sense now. I'll come out. I'm going to take off one of those knobs just to show you how these work. So it simply comes off, and that's that part of the bracket, and it attaches with that bolt. It has a little rubber foot on it so it doesn't scrape up your paint. And again, when I put this on and tweaked these, torqued them down, I drove 800 miles each way, and this entire thing, it never moved, never shifted, those never loosened up. I'm gonna go up on top of the deck. To access it, I bought one of these telescoping ladders from Vevor, V-E-V-O-R. I love their stuff. Inexpensive, but quality stuff. This is a telescoping ladder. It shrinks down to only as high as the first 2 rungs. I can stick it in the van underneath my bed. I'll show you real quick. I got a full queen size bed in here. I have another video on that. And then I've got a nice swivel seat with a swivel seat that I got from, who was it, Ironcloud. Awesome swivel seat for a van. Anyway, let me go up on the roof here with my ladder. Now, the side trim, just for reference, is 2¼ inches tall. And the reason for that is it's 5/4 decking, which if you can see the front, the decking is 1 inch thick. And I have 1 inch lip all the way around the edge on 3 sides, and I made it an extra 1/4 inch tall so it doesn't have to be flush on the bottom, but it sits just about 1/4 inch below the bottom of the deck. And the reason for that is that lip, you can see it when you get up on the deck. That lip not only gives you a place where if you are sliding your deck chair around on the deck, it stops before it goes over the edge. Also, if you walk near the edge, your foot feels that edge so you don't go off the edge. But also, it's a great spot when I climb up. That is what I grab a hold of. And I've got my hand on top of the ladder, but my fingers actually wrapped around that. No matter where I put my ladder around here, lean it up against the van, I've got that lip to grab a hold of, which really helps a lot with being comfortable getting up here. I'm pretty comfortable getting up here. Let's see. I didn't go the full length. I left room on the front. I brought it back from the front because I didn't need full length. I didn't need to go 12 feet. I got 8 brackets in the kit. There were 8, so I put 4 on each side, which the deck, I had 16-foot decking left over from a deck project I did on my house over there. So I cut them into 8-footers. So I made the deck 8 feet long. So we've got about 2 feet between each cross piece, between each bracket. And that's more than enough support with 5/4 decking, which is 1 inch thick. There's no sag at all, whatnot, no bounciness at all. So it's about 8 feet long. The van's probably 11 or 12 feet long on the roof. And so I kept it back off the roof line, which also keeps the wind as it comes over the top of the van. If the deck went all the way, it would catch the wind more. This way, the wind has kind of already come over the roof aerodynamically before it hits the deck. But for that matter, I also curved the front of the deck, you'll see. And then I actually have an apron, which you probably can't see. I'll try and show underneath. I have an apron underneath that's also curved. Curved this way, and I also put an angle on the front edge of the decking, about 30 degrees, I think it was, so that any wind that does hit it either comes up off the top edge or wraps around either way because it's curved. And for that matter as well, the back, The sides, you know, the van sides are slightly curved, so the decking tapers in to follow that slight curve along the edge. And then the back also is curved because the back edge of the van is actually curved a little, so I curved that back end. I used to work with a lot of boat builders. It's a little bit overkill. The whole thing probably could have been square and been fine, but that's just the way I overcomplicate things. But anyway, it came out really nice. The curves really look nice. And those are all stainless steel 2-inch number 10 stainless steel screws everywhere going into my cross pieces. And again, those cross pieces, they're about 2 inches tall, and they're bolted into the brackets below, and the bolts come up through. But again, I cut them off flush with the top of the nut, and then I drilled a countersunk hole from the bottom, so this piece of decking sits on top of those bolts, but they're only about a 1/2 inch tall. So, and this is 1 inch thick, so you know, you drill a hole that's about 5 inch deep from the backside, and they sit right over those bolts and hide them, obviously, from the top. And then what that bracket, if you remember, had 4 holes in the top, so 2 of those holes are the bolts coming up to bolt the bracket to my cross piece. The other 2 holes I left empty, and I left them for these 2 screws. So these 2 screws screw through those holes in the bracket and into the cross piece, and the cross piece goes all the way to the end, to the edge of the bracket. So and that's why all the screws look evenly spaced, except these last 4 are worked around where the bracket is, because obviously I don't want to drill a hole through a metal bracket. What else? I left just the width of a 16 penny nail, about 3/16 of an inch gap. Part of the reason I considered making the decking half as wide, ripping all the decking down, each piece down into 2 pieces, because I thought, you know, more airflow, but I decided it had enough airflow with the gaps that are already there, and with the way I've curved the front to get the air going off to the sides, that it again, I drove it all the way to Ohio from Maine, 12 hours each way. It was flawless. It was perfect. So I wouldn't change it. I'm glad I didn't. Let me just grab the rail here again. See, grab my hand along that edge, and it gives me great stability as I climb down this ladder. And I'll show you. I don't know if you can see underneath here. You'll see my cross piece here, but then in front of it, you may or may not be able to see, I have a curved apron sitting in front of that mimics the curve on the front edge of the decking, just to try and get airflow to go off to the sides. One other thing, the reason I went with a 2-inch stringer cross piece, I had more like 2 1/4 or 2 3/8 of an inch of height, minimal height, when I laid a level across the roof. And so these cross pieces, you can see, they don't touch the roof. I didn't want them to touch the roof. I didn't want them to squeak. I didn't want them to rub off the paint or make a lot of noise. So I left about 1/4 of an inch of space under each cross piece. And what that also does is, once I get up on the roof, or I get a couple people up on the roof, and you stand in the middle of the deck, that cross piece will actually flex a little bit, and it'll hit the roof, and the roof will give you some support, because a 2-inch floor joist isn't really the biggest floor joist, but it's designed so that there's nothing touching while I'm driving along. But when somebody's up there, if you get a lot of weight up there, it will get some support by the roof just while there's weight up there. Anyway, what else? I think that's about it. Any questions, you can put them in the comments. I'm not that good about getting back to stuff, but I will eventually. Stainless steel screws on the side, of course, as well. I used galvanized bolts. And again, I probably should have painted those heads black like I did on the top side, so they blend in, but it's all a flat black spray paint. Those are just regular 2x4s I cut for the cross pieces, for the stringers, and I spray painted them black to protect them, but also so that they blend in. And as you can see, I'll go back up with the sun behind me. As you can see, it's only 2 inches of, you know, the stringers are only 2 inches tall. They really blend in well. They disappear underneath that, which was the point. It's all dark under there. You don't really see any of that. All you see is that beautiful cedar deck. And truthfully, from ground level, it looks just kind of like a rack. You can't really tell unless, like, I'm walking up the hill here. You can see it's a deck. But when I got to VanFest, I used my ladder. I put a beach chair up there and a little table and my coffee maker and a big umbrella. And I have an incredible setup. You can see that on another video probably of mine, but it's awesome up there. You get a really great vantage point to be at a, you know, at a beautiful location, a nice, you know, a beautiful scenic site, or like I was at a van festival and I was at a crossroads intersection, all kinds of people going by, and I was across the street from the stage, and you just get a bird's eye view from up there. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it helps. Any questions you can ask. Trying to think if there's any other parts or anything I bought. I didn't. It was just those IronMan brackets, and everything is homemade pretty much. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Have a great day. God bless.